What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and I'm here today to give you my professional gaming opinion on TombStar. TombStar is a new twin-stick shooter roguelite with a space western theme from Crossy Road developer Andy Sum and Marcus Grambau, whose portfolio is probably less of a household name. Sorry, Marcus. Long-time viewers will know I like me a bit of the old rooty-tooty twin-stick shooty. Roguelites are always a good bet too. And I'll let this old cosplay of mine speak for my attachment to space cowboys. Add to that the name evokes Wildstar, which was more space cowboy fun. Oh, and also they were published by indie publisher No More Robots, who have an excellent pedigree with titles like Not Tonight and Yes Your Grace, which I loved. And the stage is pretty well set for something I've been looking forward to. Like, those stars have all aligned pretty damn well, I should say. Which is why it brings me no pleasure to say that I don't care all that much for TombStar. That's it. Review over. Go home. Oh, you're still here? Okay, fine, I'll elaborate. You play as one of 3 gunslingers on the titular planet TombStar, on a mission to take down an invading bandit gang who've taken over the whole planet and then some. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but you make your way through a series of randomized, interconnected rooms collecting weapons and perks until you balls it up and have to do it all again. You earn extra perks between runs, such that you slowly gain power, making it ever increasingly easier to eventually one day beat the game. It's fine, I guess. Perfunctory. Adequate. If it had been released 5 to 10 years ago, it would have been pretty damn good, but it hits basically all the standard genre notes that have been done just as well, if not better, for years. The random room formula is fundamentally the same one popularized in The Binding of Isaac over a decade ago, and recycled forever since. It's not a square grid, but the principle's the same. The twin-stick shooting sadly does not work well with twin sticks, which makes me feel dirty, honestly. I started playing on a gamepad and found myself struggling with the game. It has an adjustable auto-aim for gamepads, which I nudged the sensitivity upwards on, and still struggled with. It genuinely plays better with keyboard and mouse in my experience. Plenty of weapons rely on precision, and being able to point the crosshairs at the enemy and blow their brains out works much better than waving vaguely in their direction and hoping the auto-aim will do the rest. Not that that should necessarily be a black mark against it, but my preference for a game like this would typically be to play on a gamepad, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I also have the luxury of choice. Google suggests the game is coming to consoles too, though weirdly I can't find any official announcement of this. But yeah, console players, if it does come to console, won't have that option. The 3 characters available are the standard 3 on offer since video game time immemorial, generic buff dude who's pretty balanced, female character who can move fast but has low health, and chonky guy who's slow with extra health. They have different starting weapons, differing dodge moves, and a unique ultimate move each, which makes them play a little differently and shakes things up a bit, but they're all pulling from the same pool of weapons and perks. Once you pick up a rocket launcher, whether you started with a sniper rifle or shotgun feels less relevant. Those weapons and perks themselves also rarely seem to coalesce into fun and exciting combos. I've played probably less of this game than I typically want to before reviewing it, 3 and a bit hours in all, but in that time have never, not once, had any items or perks that made me go, holy shit, that was cool, which is honestly the heart and soul of the roguelike and roguelites genre. Silly bullshit that synergizes in extremely fun ways. The game's trailer shows off a bunch more interesting looking weapons, but I can't claim to have played with any so far. Maybe if I stuck with it, I'd turn up some interesting things, but I can't say I'm excited to stick with it. In this day and age, when a game's fortune can be shaped by Steam's 2-hour playtime refund window, it should probably comfortably have your attention within the first 2 hours of gameplay. If I didn't feel compelled to make this video, I may not have made it that far. On top of this, the meta progression is slow uphill work. You earn XP from each run, leveling you up in a fashion nauseatingly like a battle pass. Most of those levels unlock a new weapon, or perk, which can appear in runs, so your early runs draw from a pretty limited pool of toys. Sometimes you'll unlock a badge, which are your metagame perks, giving you permanent buffs for your runs. You don't get the badges though, just unlock them, because sometimes you'll get gemeralds, which let you then actually buy and subsequently upgrade those badges you unlocked. You can also get a few gemeralds by defeating bosses and mini-bosses, but by design those will be pretty difficult to do early on, so unless you're really good at the game, and I can't stress how much I'm not in spite of this canonically being a genre I love, those perks, which will help you progress further, are only really going to be acquired by grinding levels. I guess there's a story, delivered in the most uninspiring way possible. Every shop you reach will also have a downloadable communication from someone in the universe. An audio log, without even the audio. The entirety of which can be summarized as, "Bandits bad." At that point, I'd honestly rather have you not try to justify this whole scenario, and just give me some pure rooty-tooty than try to make me care about why we're doing it. And yes, I'm just going to call twin-stick shooters rooty-tooties now. It's fun to say, try and stop me. I can't help but contrast this with other roguelite games that I've played in recent times that are just deeply compelling. I've gladly and effortlessly sunk over 60 hours into Risk of Rain 2, a game where you can play a sniper who can pop an enemy which then explodes, releasing deadly daggers which home in on other enemies, causing them to explode and release daggers which so on. Hades, even outside the great narrative and beautiful art, kept me coming back to play around with a shield that you could charge up to slam into enemies, knocking them back into walls, causing collision damage, which itself triggers a wave of damage, knocking back other enemies into a beautiful, satisfying cascade of devastation. That's the kind of thing I mean when I say the core appeal of roguelikes and roguelites is silly bullshit. The get good crowd might be baying at my door to tell me that it's actually all about the satisfaction of overcoming a challenge. I disagree. The genre might generally be pretty hard, fundamentally speaking, but the real joy is in those synergies of the toys you find along the way that work together in strange, beautiful ways to completely accidentally make the game an absolute cakewalk. And then the rewards of those successful OP runs can be spent on balancing things more in your favour for the runs where RNGesus doesn't smile on you. And you make progress, and it feels satisfying. But a hard game, purely hard for its own sake, without those moments of joyous levity and satisfaction of progression, just comes across as frustrating. Dark Souls, forever touted as the epitome of hard games, still has easier ways to do things which are satisfying for someone struggling with the game to find, challenging yet balanced. I Wanna Be the Guy, another notoriously hard game, was difficult to the point of being unfair, but in a way that subverted expectations of the genre. As much as I play up the gag of the aging geriatric millennial gamer who just wants games for vibes and story, my channel history will show that I do genuinely love a good bullet hell rooty-tooty, and a roguelike, and a rooty-tooty roguelike. And my experience with TombStar was mostly just frustrating. It was markedly improved when I jumped to keyboard and mouse, for sure, and I felt like I was maybe starting to get it a bit as I managed to get to the second boss a couple of times, but I never really wanted to play a lot more. Compared and contrasted once again with Risk of Rain 2 and Hades, both of which I struggled to put down. I don't think it's fundamentally a bad game, it's mechanically very sound, and as I say, I think if it were released 10 years ago, it would probably be a standout example of the genre. But in the year of our Lord 2022, it's not the brightest star in the sky.